And a happy, happy birthday to Mr. Rayo. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Rayo. Happy birthday to you.
You have one coming in January, and I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm going to load up. But hey, luck.
It's a round number birthday too.
Yeah, exactly. A milestone. Well, thank you very much.
60 years old. 60.
Yes.
60.
That's for you. For me, I posted a picture on my both of my Facebook pages, my personal and my professional pages, and it was just one image of the late Harry Morgan, who played Colonel Potter on MASH, who on more than one occasion during that 13-year run of the show mentioned that he was 62 years old. And when I was a kid, when I was in my 20s watching that show, it never even occurred to me that someday I might be at that plateau. And here I am today, the same age as Colonel Potter. Do I look at the same age? Well, Harry Morgan looked old when he was in his 30s, but here I am.
Well, it's better that you look like Colonel Potter than Ethel May Potter.
Yes.
Ethel May Potter, we never forgot her. You're getting a lot of happy birthday wishes, including my dear friend Mike Panici, who is now beginning work on another season of that CBS hit show Instinct, which airs on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock. Yes.
Okay.
So I just figured I'd work in a shameless self-promoting plug because, you know what, it's our show and we can do that sort of thing.
We can do anything we want. That's true. That's
okay.
True.
But you are getting a number of birthday wishes.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right. So look, there's a couple of things I want to talk about tonight. First off, we actually have a hurricane, and likely to be a major hurricane on the next advisory from Miami, and that's Hurricane Hector,
right?
Which is heading, which looks like it may be Hawaii bound, and I pulled up a bunch of satellites so we can look at that. So before we do that, let's just kind of end the mystery about the fact that this hashtag bad hair weather that we have is going to be lasting for quite a while.
Well, you know, in my radio days back in the late 70s, myself and another name which may be familiar to some, not all of you, Todd Gross, we used to do the weather on WPLJ in the morning with Jim Kerr, and we came up with what we called the Frizz Index, and it's based upon the projection of both the ambient air temperature and the dew point temperature, and we came up with a 0 to 10 scale. And they changed it. Originally we called it the Discomfort Index, but it was Jim Kerr, who called it the Frizz Index, or maybe it was his newscaster, Shelley Sunstein. Anyway, we got to calling it the Frizz Index, and I've taken that index and brought it over here to FiOS 1, and these last, on a scale of 0 to 10, I've been ranking these days. In the last 2 or 3 days, we've had 8 and 9 on that 0 to 10 scale. I haven't hit 10 yet. We have had a few 10 days this summer, but not quite 10 because it hasn't really been hot enough to hit the 10 spot. But I'll tell you something, Joe. From the looks of things, it looks like we may very well be up near the 10 on the scale, the discomfort scale, on Sunday and Monday, because we're looking at temperatures that are going to be at or around or even above 90, and that may stretch out for an official heat wave Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Well, yeah, it's back to the 3-day
versus
heat
5-day or whatever.
Andrew DeGregorio wants to know if it takes into account receding hairlines. Neither of our hairlines have started receding yet, Andrew, and my hair is still its natural color every other week.
Yes, and Andy is an old friend of ours, going all the way back to
college days.
Back to the college days, yeah, and very highly regarded meteorologist now in the upstate New York area.
That he is.
Saratoga?
In Albany.
In Albany. In Albany, right.
Which, you know, they cover Saratoga. Exactly.
For the horse racing.
Well, because naturally everything gravitates to a racetrack.
Right, exactly.
Which is the way life should be. Oh, my aunt's just asking me how I'm fine, and my grandson is great. Thank you for asking, Annalicia. Really appreciate it. He's doing good. Robert Katz, REO Speedwagon. I'd love to be able to go to an REO Speedwagon concert. And Chicago at Jones Beach. It's going to be pretty much how it's been, Robert.
Right.
Risk is there, rolling dice with the shower or thunderstorm tomorrow. And Saturday, there probably will be more running around. Sunday less so, and maybe none at all on Sunday if we play our cards right.
Right.
But this tropical pattern that we're in is going to be very stubborn because, unfortunately, even though we are losing the upper trough that's been driving all of this, and I'll bring it up front and center. So there's a southerly flow here along the east coast. This is how the upper air looks this evening, and that trough disappears, but unfortunately it's not disappearing or getting kicked out by something from Canada. Instead, the upper high comes and builds back into the southeast, and this brings hot weather here, and of course it keeps it pretty humid. Although I wonder, Joe, maybe on Sunday, if that, with what's going through on Saturday, I'm just kind of looking at this, might the dew points just drop ever so slightly?
Yeah,
it might. I'm thinking that maybe now it might, just a little bit.
The air right now is coming from the Bahamas and rolling up along the Atlantic seaboard. By Sunday, as you can see, the way the flow is, it's not coming from the Bahamas anymore. It's actually coming from the eastern Great Lakes, inland areas. And so, yeah, and that's primarily why it's going to turn hotter.
Yeah.
We're going to get that hot west-northwesterly flow, and that may be accompanied by a bit of a dip in the dew point. Now, I'm not talking about a big dip where it's going to be clean, clear, and refreshing, but it's going to go from maybe low to mid-70 dew points to the mid-60s and upper 60s, which is still muggy, quite muggy by normal standards, but relatively speaking, it will be a little bit of
ever so slightly, and only for the day.
Yes.
Later next week, the jet stream does try to come down into the east, and this is where we might actually get something a bit more on the order of genuine relief, although you kind of look at this and you wonder whether there may be some complications with the front stalling out, or but we'll see. We'll just have to wait.
I like the look of that.
That would be nice. That's a nice shot.
Yeah.
That would be a nice shot of dry air for a day or two at least.
Right.
And then that lifts out, and then we're back to the ridge in the east. But it only lasts for a day or two, and then that weekends, and then another trough comes down. So at least we're not getting into any kind of 10-day plus 90 degrees every day sort of thing.
This has been the spring, late spring and summer of stops and starts. We have had periods of 2 and 3 weeks where the flow has been very fast and has not allowed for anything really to hold forth for a while, and then it slows down, and we're in this pattern now of a week or 10 days of humidity, and that eventually is going to break down, and we'll go back to the fast flow maybe late next week and on into the week beyond, into mid-August. And my goodness, look at that!
Now that is Hurricane Hector.
Oh goodness,
which looks like on the last few frames it's moving slightly south of due west, but it's definitely plodding along on its course, and it became a hurricane earlier today, and now is just under Category 3 status. You can probably just make out an eye there on the infrared.
Look at the northern periphery. You see the classic outflow of clouds there.
It's also not that big. This is another one of these small systems, and now we can take a look at this on a wider perspective. Joe, what's interesting about this when you look at with North America in the middle, you can see the Pacific tropics. The intertropical convergence zone in the Pacific is now very, very busy. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 disturbances, with Hector being the one that's furthest to the right. The other ones may or may not develop. Probably the ones that are further to the east have a better chance of developing than the system that's right behind Hector. It's probably too close. But the next two may have a shot. But you look at this, and then you look at the Atlantic side, which is just a mess. And I've got the visible here. You have that African dust, that lighter, I don't know, I guess you want to call it that whitish shading. That is still there. You've got upper lows all over the place across the Atlantic. You've got wind shear across the Caribbean. And it doesn't look, and look at the difference between the intertropical convergence zone on the Pacific side versus on the Atlantic side. The Atlantic side is very, very anemic.
It's quite a different story from 1 year ago. 1 year ago, we were just about now getting ready to see the Atlantic basin rev up. With how many 4s did we have? Hurricane category.
We had 7 majors last year.
Unbelievable, and it's nothing like that this year. Now, it could change, but it doesn't look like it's going to be changing in the immediate future.
Colorado State University issued their updated forecast today, and they cut it back again. They're forecasting 9 additional storms on top of the 3 we already had.
Right.
So 12 for the season, which would be about average, or maybe in some measures you might even call it slightly below average. And three of those 9 storms becoming hurricanes, and 1 of those 3 becoming a major. So they've kind of scaled back from their original forecast, which I believe was in the range of like 15 or 16. And they're citing the cold Atlantic Ocean waters, especially in the tropical Atlantic. And we talked about that last week. The strong winds that are occurring across the tropics, especially in the Caribbean. And the Saharan dust, which continues to be an issue.
I wonder if anything is these predictions or have a sort of a political bend to them, though, that if they had looked at this type of pattern, let's say back in May or early June, they might have called for something significantly less than the revision that they came up with today.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they had a little group meeting and said, all right, we're going to lower it, but we're not going to lower it tremendously because we want to stay the course to what we were saying, several weeks or a month or 2 ago.
Well, it could be. It certainly could be. Manage expectations, which is what everybody does. This is also why I really try not to get too wound up when it comes to these long-range forecasts, because they, as we were saying yesterday, how useful can they be? And we need to repeat the fact that an active season and a storm making landfall are 2 different things.
Right.
Okay, so you can have an inactive season with the Category 5 hurricane coming ashore like it did in 1992, which was with Hurricane Andrew, which didn't happen until late August that we got the A storm.
Right.
And you could have years like we had multiple times with storms all over the place, and none of them hit land. Anyway, we're going to go back to Hector here, and I'm going to start with this is the Central Pacific view, so it really doesn't come into, there it goes. This is by Saturday morning. It starts to it's far enough west where it shows up on this sector.
Yeah.
Going through the weekend and into next week.
Just back up a couple more frames there. So right about here, which would be 6Z Monday. So sometime after midnight Monday or after midnight Sunday, early on Monday, they're going to hand off from Miami to the folks over at the Hurricane Center in Hawaii.
Correct. Yeah. And the GFS has been very consistent. All the models do something like this.
Wow.
And it takes it right over Hawaii. Now, look, there are going to be some subtleties going on in the upper atmosphere, and I want to point them out because they're really important here. There is an upper high. This is what the upper air looks like.
Right.
And you've got this upper high that's kind of bananaed around it.
Right.
It's shielding it from a trough, a weak trough that's out to the northwest, but an even deeper trough that's to the northeast of it that Hector misses.
Right.
So this is key here. If that ridge is weaker, you could wind up seeing Hector turning faster and avoiding the Hawaiian Islands,
right.
Or if it's stronger, it could be pushed further south. And the other thing is, and we've talked about this the last couple of times when we were addressing Hawaii when it comes to tropical storms or hurricanes, but there seems to be like this magical protection area that sits over them, because over the years I've seen a number of storms, including Category 4s and even I think once a Category 5 hurricane that got to about 150 degrees west with less than 500 miles from Hawaii.
Right.
And by the time it got to Hawaii, it was barely a tropical storm.
Yeah, sure.
There's all kinds of wind shear that goes on out there with plus the fact that the water temperatures in the Pacific, believe it or not, near Hawaii are kind of borderline. They're right around 80 or so.
Right.
They're not sitting at 84 or 5. Yeah. I will say, Joe, that the water temperature profile in the Pacific actually is showing above average temperatures.
Right.
So that could be supportive, and maybe that's one of the things the GFS is picking up on. But we'll see. We'll watch it over the next few days. But I mean, it does look like it's at the very least, it looks like it's going to be a close call for the Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah, they're too close for comfort for a lot of folks out there. And yeah, and in fact, interestingly, if you look at the climatological records, and I know this only because back in 1991 there was a tremendous total eclipse of the sun that went over the big island of Hawaii. I actually was the onboard meteorologist for American Hawaii Cruises. I had 2 cruise ships that I had to move. Spoke with the captain of the cruise ship that I was on, the SS Independence, and the SS Constitution, which was the Lucy and Ricky
That's
ship.
right.
And back then they had something called a TUT, a tropical upper tropospheric trough, which rarely ever happens in July, because 95% of the time in July you get the northeast trade wind, and the northeast trade wind usually leads to dry and pleasant, beautiful weather in Hawaii. We're just coming out of July now. We're in August. And what we're looking at here with Hector certainly is another significant anomaly over what you would normally... I mean, if you look at the books and say, when's the best time to go to Hawaii? Oh, let's go in July or maybe early August. And this is not going to fit the long-term category by any means, but every once in a while you do get them.
Well, we'll see if this is going to be one of those once-in-a-whiles. In the meantime, this weekend, Sunday, I think, is the better of the 2 days. Next week, Monday and Tuesday, look like we're going to be in the 90s.
Yep.
And then after that, it's going to depend on, the next trough, and does it drop in? Does it hang around? Does it take forever to get out of the way?
It seems to me, not looking at the upper air thing, but just looking at the surface features, it seems there's going to be some kind of a front that's going to try to mosey in from the west and touch off some showers and storms on Wednesday, and then maybe petering out during Thursday, and then a stronger system with the actual trough on Friday, which, if it's as dynamic as what we saw on the GFS, it could be a nice push for at least a day or two of some drier and cooler air for, obviously not this weekend, but maybe for next weekend, and that would certainly be a nice change of pace considering all we've been through so far with these high dew point temperatures.
All right. You know what? Let's call it a night. You have a birthday.
Who just said that he saw lightning over Manhattan?
Well, it's on the radar. There are some cells over. You know what? Why don't we take a look? Let's see. I have a radar hidden in here somewhere. Some showers that kind of just moved through. I did notice there were a few cells. Looks like there's one over Staten Island right now.
Right.
You know what? Let me refresh this. Hang on. Hang on, folks. Let's get this. Let's make sure this is a fresh picture. There we go. All right, so yeah, definitely I could see why you're seeing some lightning in and around Manhattan. You're getting this patch here. This is, by the way, it's 9:42 Eastern Time, so if you're watching this on the replay, this was from earlier. Anyway, there's these downpours tonight. This little batch happened to hold together, so that's moving northeastward. After that, doesn't look like too much to the south and west, so let's just work this one through and then we're done.
Right, and we'll rerun today's weather tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll rerun the weather on Saturday, and then hot and dry for Sunday and Monday, and then we'll play
hot and dry from the standpoint of no rain.
No rain. Dry in terms of dew points is not going to be happening.
It's still going to be hashtag bad weather day.
Yes.
Bad hair weather. I'm sorry. Bad hair weather. All right. Anyway, time to go. I hope everybody had a great day. We will be back tomorrow, of course, with the Joe and Joe Show to finish off the week and get you started on your weekend. Happy birthday again to you.
Thank you so much.
And hope your day was grand.
It was, nothing happened.
Which is good.
Which is good. When nothing happens, you don't get any major problems or anything. If they can all be like this, I'll be happy.
All right. And
which you will probably have a blizzard in late January, I guess. So.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of tired of that stuff. I've had enough big snowstorms on my birthday. So.
It never snowed on my birthday.
You know, it didn't for many, many years on my birthday. Through that whole stretch of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I don't even think I can remember it snowing once on my birthday. And, since 2000... there have been a few times that it snowed, and snowed with vigor.
Right.
On my birthday.
There was a former president would say vigor.
Yes, I think we got an 18-incher on one of my birthdays.
Okay.
Which, I'm getting too old for this stuff.
Yeah.
I'd rather it not happen. All right, Fios 1 News, Long Island, New Jersey, at the top of the hour for moi.
And Fios 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley for yours truly. And again, we'll rerun today's weather for you probably tomorrow and for Saturday. And in the meantime, enjoy yourself.
Monsieur le Rabbit, là, will show me how to make the Buck Bunny Bayou Baudelaire à la Antoine.
À la Antoine?
À la Antoine! C'est la vie!